When it comes to the new Milwaukee M12 Stubby, and I'm talking about 2562 and 2563, the comments you guys have vary across the board. The impacts per minute that we've registered or see with our ears, not with scientific equipment. I'm hoping Torque Test Channel can come across with some of that info and kind of clear this up. But depending what battery you use, you can hear a significant difference in how this motor performs inside the tool. We're going to take a look at that and see how it works with each battery, going from the 2 amp hour all the way up to the 6 amp hour. Just see what happens as far as voltage drop. And I think there's going to be a huge story that we can tell here. So we're going to get right at it. We're going to let this guy hammer for a significant amount of time on a large bolt that's not moving. We're going to watch and see what the voltage does from at rest to where it goes down to after some time hammering. And I think you're going to be quite interested to see what happens. Here's our first test with the CP 2.0 amp hour battery. We're starting out at 12.41 volts. If we just hit the trigger, we hit a drop there in the 10s. So that's kind of crazy. This is going to take up a lot of power. Let's let this guy eat. Drop down to 8.09, and you can see it's working its way back up. All right, we have the CP 2.5 high output. We're starting out at 12.27 as far as volts. Let's see what this one does. 8.94, but that was letting it go for a long time. It stayed in the 9s. This is going to be our first 2P battery. This is the XC 4.0. Starting out at 12.38 volts. Interesting how it went down to 8.54. Here's the one everyone wants to see, the XC 5 amp hour high output. Starting out at 12.39. 10.22 was the lowest. Here's the XC 6.0. Let's see what it'll do. Starting out at 12.15 volts. .75, and we probably could have continued down. So no matter what Milwaukee M12 tool you use, if you want power, it's very obvious you have to pick up the new XC 5.0 high output battery. It by far outperformed the rest, not only in what you could hear as far as impacts per minute, but also in voltage, where it didn't drop. It just sat there and held good voltage. In fact, its lowest point was 10.22 volts, which is outstanding compared to the rest, even when we look at the CP 2.5 amp hour battery, which held its own, but really held in the 9s as far as voltage. So that's not even close. While the impacts per minute seemed higher than the others, it at least still had a low of 8.94. If you're just using the CP 2 amp hour battery, that was kind of a buzzkill as it dropped right down to 8.09 volts. And you can hear the impact slow. I wasn't sure what to expect just jumping up to a 2P battery when I started with the 4 amp hour. I kind of assumed that maybe it would do pretty fair, and it didn't. It was at 8.54 and still dropping. So better, but not a whole lot, much more better. Again, the 5 amp hour, 10.22 was where it dropped to, and that just held and kept going. I was very, very surprised. 6 amp hour, which I've used this battery quite a bit with these tools, doing shorts, doing different things, and off camera, and it's done well. I thought in this situation where you are hammering and you are just going at one single bolt for a long period of time, it did poorly, starting out at 12.15 volts and dropping down to 8.75. And it kept going down. So I was blown away by the results. I expected there to be a little bit more of a curve where you could see that these larger 2P batteries would still hold a little bit more. They don't. I'm gonna suggest that even this tool is taking up more amps than maybe some of the drills that we've seen before, and this motor is thirsty for power, and there's no doubt about that. And with the right power, it is more than willing to give you everything it's got and do some serious work. Now, all this stuff gets a little hot. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to give you an idea what we're looking at here before I put the thermal imager up. We have the tool after it's been tested, CP2 amp hour, CP 2.5, 4, 5, and 6. Now when we come in and look at the tool, it's pretty hot. Pretty hot. And I haven't had that happen as much in everyday use, but putting this to the test and just letting her eat, it did. Now, interestingly enough, the 2 amp hour battery was the one that had the longest to sit. 2.5, which is on the green in the center at this point, is warm. Not crazy warm, but it's warm. And when we move over to the 4, it is pretty cool. Move over to the 5. Again, it had time to sit. Not bad. But then look at that 6. That 6, even when we just put it aside and have the 5 next to it, that 6 got hot, but it did drop significantly in voltage with the 6. So I find this very interesting. When you really push this tool, it gets warm pretty quick, as expected. So 2 things. If you're gonna buy this tool specifically to remove 550 foot-pounds, again, I would say go up to the M18 mid-torque. Use this, as we've stated in other videos, for that 100 to 350 foot-pounds, and you'll be more than happy at the speed that it removes and tightens things, because it's rocking in that range. What I'm also going to suggest, we purchased the 1/2 inch that came out bare tool. The 3/8 that we just got came in the kit. This kit came with a 2.5 amp hour battery and a 5 amp hour battery. Buy the kit because you want this 5 amp hour battery, and when you're not using that 5 amp hour battery and you want something smaller, this 2.5 high output is not far behind. That would be my suggestion. That kit is well worth the extra money, as you're getting 2 powerhouses of a battery. Beyond that, if you're gonna sit and hammer on things a long period of time, this gets warm. It doesn't get warm in normal use. My normal use is not just sitting and hammering on something. I'm not using this on semi-lugs, I'm using it on lugs on cars, I'm using it on interior work, I'm using it on light work, lots of different things. But if you're gonna just sit and hammer on suspension bolts, it gets warm. Not crazy warm, but it gets warm, and warm enough that maybe if that's what you're doing, it would be well worth going up a size and not dealing with the amount of heat. Now, with that, the socket is actually even very, very hot from hammering that amount of time. So what's it going to be? If you're not going to just sit and hammer and you're going to be using this in different places, you won't feel that much heat build up. It's never happened to us before today in this test, But if you're gonna sit and hammer on large things, don't be disappointed if this guy heats up, because it will. Overall, cool test. I learned something in here. This 5 amp hour high output battery rocks it out much more than I ever expected. And it's also a little bit different shaped as far as how the battery is on top, which made it a little bit harder for us to test with our normal means. It doesn't have that indentation as the other ones do. Interesting to look at. Comments below. Very interested to hear your thoughts, because I'm sure a lot of people are buying this tool and not buying that new 5 amp hour battery to go with it. And if you did that and really are looking for all that tool can give you, pick up the new battery. You won't be disappointed. Comments below. Give us a like in this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.